Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of my read-through of Umineko no Nakakoroni. Let's jump right in. We crossed the hall again on our way to the entrance. As we did, we once again saw that witch's portrait. However, the word saw is probably not the best word to describe that experience. It was more like our eyes were drawn to it. That woman's eyes, with the sage-like glamour, definitely had the power to make those who looked at her stand rooted on the spot. So, this is the witch Beatrice. Wonder if it's true. Ooh, Battler doesn't believe? Back when he'd asked what this picture was, the first person to tell him it was Beatrice had been Maria. Therefore, when Battler showed signs of doubt, Maria must have felt that Battler didn't have faith in her. Of course, that's not what Battler meant. Maria ran up to the portrait and began banging on a plate below. Maybe the title of the portrait was written there. Maria, trying to prove she wasn't lying, obstinately continued to hit the plate. Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's not like I doubt anything you said, Maria. Ooh, Battler believes! Ooh! When he patted Maria's head and apologized, she seemed to accept it, sticking out her chest and proudly ooh-oohing. Let's see here. My beloved witch, Beatrice. Behold the sweet fish river. Wait, what's with this weird long epitaph? The plate did have the title of the portrait written on it, but it was much too big to contain only that. Beneath the title, what looked like a long epitaph was also written. As I skimmed it over, I was taken aback by the array of unnerving words that jumped out at me. Incredible, isn't it? Grandfather had that written. Pretty deep, huh? Ooh, I know! The place where the gold is hidden. Wait, is it that story about the Ushimiya family hidden gold? There's another thing that takes me back. Wait, Aniki, is this for real? Grandfather had it written, but he refuses to say anything about this picture or the epitaph. Even so, amongst the family it is often whispered. It points to the location of Grandfather's hidden gold. And he will relinquish the family headship and the gold to the person who solves the riddle. Ooh, I heard it too! Lots and lots of gold! Well, who knows, really? 10 tons of gold bars. Sounds a bit fishy to me. Still, if you read this all the way through, it almost seems real. I think I already explained Grandfather's upbringing. But let me also mention the Ushimiya family's legend of the gold. Grandfather succeeded the Ushimiya family after it had been almost totally destroyed in the Great Kanto earthquake. And by successfully riding out the stormy seas after the war, managed to accumulate great wealth. That much of the story everyone knows. However, this is where the strange part of the story begins. Part of it is closely tied to Grandfather's black magic hobby, so its credibility is extremely low, but, well, wait until the end before you doubt or make fun of it. After the war, Grandfather successfully predicted what the future would hold. His big gamble paid off, and he accumulated a vast store of wealth. But there's a mysterious legend about how he gained the funds in the first place. Grandfather came from a branch family that had no connections in the business world or financial world. Even though he later built connections with the occupying forces, in the beginning he was supposedly a nameless person who had not yet gained anyone's trust. Money can only be gathered based on trust. There's no way anyone would lend money to an untrustworthy person. How did Grandfather, whose trustworthiness was zero, manage to obtain large amounts of funds in the first place? It's said that when asked that question, Grandfather answered like this. One fateful day, I encountered the golden witch Beatrice. He then went on and on about how he continued to research alchemy and techniques for summoning demons in order to become a great mage. And the entity summoned as the result of that demon-calling ritual was the golden witch Beatrice. He then said he made a contract where in exchange for his own soul, he would receive fortune and honor. The witch then granted Grandfather 10 tons of gold. Grandfather used the gold as collateral to prepare a vast quantity of funds, and then used that to multiply his wealth by several times and revive the Ushimiya family. It seems that this story is so old our parents had already been told it when they were children. So our parents, when they were little, explored this island in various ways, believing the gold that Grandfather had received from the witch might be hidden somewhere. However, since there was the danger of them getting lost in the abandoned forest, Grandmother or someone began to spread the story that the witch lived in the forest and approaching it was too dangerous. I remember that old story. When we were little, our parents told us about it, and we went all over the island searching for treasure. Didn't we get lost in the forest and start crying until some of the servants found us? Our parents were so mad. Oops. That takes me back. We sure were idiots, huh? I mean, come on. Grandfather used that to build up funds he finally bought the island with, right? That means he must have had the gold before coming here. There's no way it'd be here on the island. That's not necessarily so. Maybe the gold was hidden on the island from the beginning, and he bought the island just to make sure it was all his. There was a whole 10 tons, right? Seems more realistic he would try to secure a place where it was hidden rather than move it all. This epitaph was written 2 years ago. Since Grandfather had it written himself, I see. It does make the legend of the gold more believable. 10 tons of gold bestowed upon Grandfather by a witch that it said he used to revive the Ushimiya family. It's sleeping somewhere even now, and Grandfather may be planning to turn it over to whoever can solve his riddle. I guess that sounds like Grandfather's style or something. If that's true, that'd be one hell of an opportunity. The epitaph carved in the plate was mysterious, something like a poem or a song. Its sentences were incredibly disturbing, filled with the signs of Grandfather's black magic hobby and truly in bad taste. But it could definitely be viewed as a puzzle which, if solved, could lead to the place where the gold was hidden. I can't even imagine if that's what he intended or not. All I can say is this shady epitaph was displayed here so everyone in the family could see it. And that, even while hinting at the existence of the gold, he refuses to touch upon the subject of its hiding place. That caused our parents' imaginations to run wild and called it a battle of wits from Grandfather. Bet it's my dad who's taking this nonsense at face value. His greed's exposed to the world. Even though he laughs at Grandfather's black magic hobby, he still believes in the story about the hidden gold. He's all talk. Well, it's certainly not a realistic story. At the time, when Grandfather was still nameless without any connections, there's no way anyone would have just lent him a massive quantity of gold bars for free. I'm gonna pause until Millie calms down. Alright, I think she's calmed down. At the time, when Grandfather was still nameless without any connections, there's no way anyone would have just lent him a massive quantity of gold bars for free. Though it's not unthinkable to suggest that's exactly why Grandfather called his sponsor a witch. Yeah, but that's 10 tons, man. 10 tons. If you trade that for money, how much would it come to? Anyway, it'd have to be a ridiculous amount, right? It would be a ridiculous amount. They say that the total amount of gold mined by humankind since the dawn of history is at most 100,000 tons. That 1/10,000th of all the gold in humankind should belong to one person's insane. And that it should all be in one place, and that there should be a witch who could just lend it to Grandfather as if it were nothing. That would be no ordinary person. As for me, I think the number 10 tons sounds solely fake. In the first place, has anyone other than Grandfather ever seen it? And even if some generous witch lent him some actual gold, couldn't that 10 be right, but actually be mistaken for kilos? Even 10 kilos is pretty incredible, right? Ooh, 10 kilos of gold is how much? Maria, who couldn't keep up and felt like she was being spoken to in riddles, finally found a place where she could ask us a question. A question I also wanted to ask right then. Whether I hear 10 kilos or 10 tons, I know it's an incredible amount, but I couldn't put a number on how incredible. George Haneke folded his arms and tried to remember the market price of gold. Well, Gold is affected by speculation, and its price can also change depending on purity and trustworthiness of the foundry. You would also need to pay a commission to turn it into money. Still, it's definitely a precious metal, and some people estimate if gold mining continues at its current rate, within half a century we'll have mined it all. Just guessing haphazardly. For 1 kilo, I think maybe a price of 2 million yen. Whoa. I know I just plucked out 10 kilos out of the air, but even that would be worth 20 million yen? Ooh, I weigh 28 kilos. Which means that if we had Maria's weight in gold, we could estimate it's worth at over 50 million yen. That's just mind-boggling. How much would 10 tons be? It's 20 million for 10 kilos, so times 1,000, so that's it. 20 billion yen? What the hell? How much is 20 billion yen actually worth? We would have to measure it by putting it in terms we could understand. I mean, they say the wages over a lifetime are 200 million yen. You grow up and work like crazy, sacrificing your life for your company, and as you approach old age, are finally freed. Put that all together, including retirement money, and that comes out to 200 million yen. In other words, that's the cash equivalent of a human life. You could even call it the price of one. We're talking about a sum so enormous it would require 100 of those lives. Assuming you work for 40 years from the age 20 to 60, that's equal to 4,000 years of work wages. It's a sum of money you could finally accumulate after working every day starting from the Jomon period. Ooh, is 20 billion yen huge? Yeah, it's huge. Maria, you could buy more of that shortcake you love than you could eat in a lifetime. However, while I could imagine 20 billion yen in cash, I don't think it's plausible for it to all be in one place as gold bars. Like I said, gold's extremely heavy. It's not very convenient as a method of storing all your accumulated fortune. If it were all in highly valued stocks or bonds, or incredibly expensive precious gems, that wouldn't be unthinkable. You often hear people who, in the chaotic period of the war, traded their wealth for precious gems so they could carry it around with them. But you don't usually hear stories of people exchanging their wealth for gold. Well, of course it's heavy, but internationally it's the most trusted and stable. Doesn't that mean something? With bombs, for example, if the country's destroyed, they're just scraps of paper. You can look at it that way. But even one 10-kilo ingot's pretty heavy to carry around. Have you heard of this? Even if you can carry a 50-kilogram person on your back, you can't carry a 50-kilogram bag over your shoulder. With that many gold bars, the amount of labor and risk for one person would be hard to calculate. So what you're saying is, if we were talking 20 billion yen in banknotes flying around, that'd be one thing. But given it's supposedly 20 billion yen in gold piled up, that doesn't really ring true. That's right. Although the legend of the gold does have a pretty interesting ring to it. Even just the part about 10 tons of gold is a bit of a stretch. If you think about it logically like that, it sounds obviously fake. It kind of brings you back down to reality. That said, it's his grandfather we're talking about, after all. He may have announced his financing from some kind of rich person, in an exaggerated metaphorical way, as 10 tons of gold received from a witch. Even the number 10 tons feels pretty symbolic. You mean like his gratitude for the money he borrowed was worth 10 tons of gold or something? Maybe some rich man's leisured wife generously granted it to grandfather. And then he started calling this lady a witch? Jessica's example isn't bad. If someone was generous enough to lend a huge sum of money to grandfather when his trustworthiness was still zero, she would certainly be someone worthy of being called a witch. Furthermore, grandfather later used that money to build up a vast amount of wealth. With such an incredible ability to judge people, again, she might be well fittingly called a witch. Also, since she went to the trouble of lending all that money, she might also have enthusiastically guided how it was spent. Come to think of it, the idea to get involved with the occupying forces and profit from the Korean War demands might have come from the witch as well. With all that considered, saying that he received wealth and honor from a witch, that might actually be a fair description. I see. So, in other words, this witch granted the funds necessary to revive the Ushime family, and grandfather owed her big time. If that's the case, and grandfather had a huge painting drawn and displayed out of feelings of gratitude, that might not be so strange a story. What if this person looked like an old witch like Granny? And then grandfather idealized her appearance and turned her into a beauty when they had the painting drawn. I'll bet if we ever did meet this person, she wouldn't be nearly this pretty. That's possible. The name Beatrice sounds pretty Western. If you think about how everyone in our family has Western-style names, maybe even the name Beatrice is the result of grandfather trying to rearrange some Japanese person's name to make it sound Western. I get it. That means this pretty girl doesn't exist outside the picture. Guess that means I won't be able to rub those In the first place, isn't a witch a little weird? Like, you could find something else like that, like you could find anything like that on Earth. As I laughed and made fun of the witch in an attempt to differentiate myself from the kid I was 6 years ago, who was afraid of the witch of the forest, Maria tugged on my sleeve. The strength with which she did displayed a little annoyance. What? What is it, Maria? Ooh, Beatrice exists! Maria stared up at me. She had on her usual sour look, but I could tell she was angry because of the color of her eyes. Witches exist! Witches exist! Ooh! Well, sure they exist. When you turn on TV or watch an anime or something. Exist! Witches exist! Ooh! I started to feel pressured, not knowing why Mario was jumping on me like that. Then Jessica tapped me on the shoulder and told me in a small voice, "Dumbass, don't go smashing a kid's dream. Mario really believes in things like witches and Beatrice. Come to think of it, Mario in social studies at your school, when you were asked to write what you want to be when you grow up, you wrote a witch, didn't you?" Maria nodded seriously. Tears started to run from the corners of her eyes. I see. To a girl who wants to become a witch in the future, this Beatrice is proof that witches do exist in this world, and is also someone who she admires and strives to be like. Exist! Exist! Witches exist! But Battler doesn't believe. Ooh. It's alright. They exist. Witches do. Only John believes it. George Aniki kneeled down and held Maria's head. Watching this, Jessica poked me in the side. Ah, so that's what it is. It's like I just dropped the bomb that Santa doesn't exist, in front of a child who believes in him on Christmas Eve. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to shatter kids' dreams. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make fun of your dreams. I apologize. Of course Beatrice exists. Even now, she's living in the forest and comes every night to the mansion to peek in and see what everyone's doing. That's why you shouldn't go to the forest. And at night, you mustn't stay up staring out into it. You might be seen by the witch of the forest Beatrice. After all, that's what Grandma said. Ooh, really? Battler really believes? Yeah, I believe it. I'm sorry for doubting you. Come on, let's make up, alright? I stuck out my hand and Maria grabbed it with her tiny hand and we made up. Maria didn't grumble any more than that, so George, Aniki, and Jessica were relieved. Oh, if this is where you all were. I was sure you had left to go to the beach. Shannon, carrying a basket, was surprised to find us all gathered in front of the portrait. Oh, Shannon. Well, this is the first time Battler has seen Beatrice's portrait. He was just fascinated by it. Yes, she does that, doesn't she? Beatrice-sama is truly beautiful. I'm sure she captivated the master. In addition to the patron theory, there's also the theory that she was grandfather's first love. Either way, although it's been several decades since he met her, even now she holds a special place in his heart. Which must mean that he's still captivated by her even today. Yeesh. That must have made grandmother pretty jealous, right? I don't know everything, but yeah, that did happen actually. Apparently grandmother believed he was cheating on her with some blonde-haired woman. Ooh, good smell! Good smell coming from Shannon! Maria, sniffing, approached the basket Shannon was holding with interest. Now that you mention it, I do notice a fragrant scent of vanilla. I apologize. I was told by Kumasawa to bring them all to you. What is it? What is it, I wonder? Oh, excellent. Cookies. Ooh, wanna eat cookies? Wanna eat cookies? Ooh. Certainly, you may eat as many as you like, but, well... Unsure whether it was really acceptable to serve cookies in a place like in front of the portrait, Shannon sent us a glance which seemed to ask what we wanted to do. Thinking about it, yeah, that would be bad manners. Mario, why don't we eat someplace else? Let's put the cookies in a bento and have a picnic. Ooh, have a picnic, have a picnic. If we can eat cookies, let's go. Yeah, let's get some fresh air. We shouldn't pick at food right in front of the wedge. Alright, didn't we say we wanted to go to the beach in the first place? Let's go. Shannon, I'm sorry, but could I ask you to get a blanket for us to sit on and some flasks of tea? Right, certainly. Shannon received her instructions and gracefully bowed before retracing her steps. We headed out to the beach on our own. Everyone headed for the entrance in a group. Feeling as though the witch was staring down at our backs, I turned around once more. Ooh? Paddler, you still don't believe? No, I believe. But that way is way more fantastical. The Golden Witch Beatrice gave Grandfather 10 tons of gold. That gold might be sleeping around here somewhere. Plus, they're saying Grandfather wrote up that strange epitaph as though challenging us to find it if we can. I think that kind of romantic story is way better. 20 billion yen's worth of gold! Even if we split it between the four of us, that's a ridiculous amount of money. 5 billion yen for each. That's incredible. With that kind of money, any business would prosper. We could even live our whole lives fabulously without ever having to work. Ooh, not 5 billion yen, cookies, cookies. Mario would take cookies over money. Still, 5 billion yen, that's like a dream. Ridiculous. Is it truly possible you all believe in Father's legend of the gold? The story about the witch who gave him the gold and so forth, we obviously don't believe. However, there's no mistake about the gold itself. Multiple sources have confirmed the fact that Father was in possession of gold bars from an unknown source. We heard that before the Maruso Company president died, Father showed him a large amount of gold somewhere. Father stated clearly to him that there were 10 tons worth. That is the nonsense of a senile old man. Along with Father, he was fabricating his story. You can't take it seriously. If that gold didn't exist, he wouldn't have been able to gather so much funding. Before the president died, he was a person whose sincere personality gathered a lot of respect from many in the business world. He wouldn't have become a partner to such a fraud. Anarchy. The president of Maruso definitely saw it. 10 tons of it, clearly with his own eyes. Even more, Dad let the president take one ingot at random and have it examined. The result of the examination showed that the 10-kilogram ingot had a purity of 4 nines. He said the Uchimeya family crest, the one-winged eagle, was carved into it. Almost instantly, the Uchimeya legend of the gold spread amongst the fixers of the business world. Gold from an unknown foundry has a poor rate of conversion into money. Thinking it was a chance for decisive profits, they accepted it as collateral, and as a result, Father was able to receive a giant loan. This is the most ridiculous nonsense I've ever heard. How old are you people? Are you still taking that fairy tale you heard as a kid at face value? Where's the proof this 10 tons of gold even exists? Isn't it just lies that Father and others who were closest to him told? Of course, it's just a story, but still, Anarchy. The amount of money Dad raised required a suitable quantity of collateral. Even if the gold was just a rumor, then that he must have shown them a treasure of comparable worth is an unmistakable truth, don't you think? It was just a fiction of gold created by our penniless father. He made it seem that non-existent gold actually existed, and fooled his sponsors. It was probably the gamble of a lifetime. Fortunately, his use of the funds proved successful. If the Korean War demands hadn't come and the Ushimiya family had not been restored, Father would probably have been hounded after as the crook of the century. In that case, are you saying the gold never existed? Father made it all up? Of course. Therefore, after he had become sufficiently successful, the fiction of the gold was nothing but an inconvenience. So Father made up the absurd story about the witch and black magic and made the whole thing seem less believable. In other words, he revealed the gold was complete fiction. If he says that he received the gold from a witch, no one would believe that it exists at all, correct? He may have even said it for your sakes. Nevertheless, some stupid offspring wanting to divide up this non-existent gold with the rest of the inheritance have appeared. Rosa, don't tell me even you believe this kind of fabrication. I can't prove whether or not Father really has the gold. However, as one of Father's 4 children, I want my claim for the rightful share. Oh. It seems even Rosa has learned to assert herself. Alright. Maybe this is what you all want to say. I'm trying to keep all the gold to myself. Nissan, the fact that you've obtained a massive amount of funding, if we rule out the possibility you've been embezzling Father's personal funds, there's only one possibility left, right? Anki, maybe you've already found that 10 tons of gold bars. Sure looks that way to us. Ridiculous. Something like that never existed in the first place. Then explain yourself. Embezzlement of Father's assets? Father's hidden gold? How could you have gathered so much funding if you didn't use one of these? I also have many friends in the political world and the financial world. I've done nothing more than gain their assistance. And as for that, I have no responsibility to explain it to you. You understand, don't you? There are some topics that cannot be talked about. If that's the story you insist on, then that's fine. But Aniki, Dad doesn't have long. No one can ensure that he will live to see this day next year. When Dad dies, the inheritance will be passed on immediately. We'll all set up impartial lawyers and accountants to inspect the state of Dad's finances. If at that time the fact that our brother has unjustly interfered with Father's money comes to light, you understand, right? I don't have a clue what you're talking about. You're starting to make me feel as indignant as my wife was. Father's gold is definitely one of Father's assets. I understand it's money you can't reveal openly. Even so, the 4 siblings should have equal rights to it. In short, we also have your financial situation investigated to determine whether or not you're holding the gold. You have a good opportunity right now. Prove the existence of this backup from friends and acquaintances you mentioned. That way you'll be spotless. And we can sportingly apologize for foolishly doubting you. Right, Rosa? That's right. Krasny, you are the one who's avoiding the topic. If you were guiltless, you could just prove that you were in the right. Yet you aren't even trying to respond. However, Aniki, we still have to consider your position here. As Dad's representative, you will probably bear a larger share of the burden than we are. It wouldn't be fair for the rest of us, who've been living terribly relaxed lives until now, to complain without taking that into account. Oh? I am spoken ill of one moment and flattered the next. It's quite tiresome. Get to the point. In short, randomly investigating nitpicky aspects of Father's wealth seems a pretty darn boorish way to do it. As you said, Krasny, you probably got movements of money that are difficult to explain. We understand that, and that's why we come to consult with you. A mutually beneficial consultation. Consultation? Huh. When the inheritance is distributed, you'll be rewarded for your years of hard work, taking care of Dad by an agreement that's generous in your favor. Don't misunderstand us. It's not like we're saying we'll abandon our rights. It's just that when we claim what we deserve, it wouldn't be bad if there was a generous understanding of your position. That's what I mean. In other words, if you accept our conditions, at the time of the division of the inheritance, we won't mind leaving the investigation of father's financial status to you, Krasny. All the siblings from Ava downward suspected that Kraus was trying to steal their father's wealth. In that situation, letting Kraus report on the state of their father's wealth by himself was extremely contradictory and a huge concession. If, as they claimed, Kraus was actually embezzling money, Kraus would be able to hide the fact. Besides that, it would be possible for him to control the distribution of the inheritance in a manner favorable to himself. Kraus, also realizing this sounded too good to be true, couldn't help but feel doubt. He had to worry about what they would ask in return for such a compromise. Oh, after mistrusting me completely, you now say you're willing to restore your confidence in me as the eldest sibling. And what are you asking for? Just what we deserve as siblings. You aren't the kind of person who would steal Dad's property. However, there's no patron finance. Considering all that, there's a certain explanation that would satisfy the rest of us. Lisa, you found the 10 tons of gold, and then you used it as collateral to gather funding. Just like Father did in the past, right? If that's the case, there won't be any funny bits in Father's finances. You've always been a good son looking after Father. Why would we mistrust a person like that? You're being so roundabout I can barely understand you. Say it more clearly and specifically. Our first condition. Anarchy, you must admit you found Dad's gold. Are you asking me to admit I possess gold that I do not? That doesn't exist? Our second condition. Recognize our rights to a share of it and pay it to us. How foolish. With the non-existent 20 billion yen of gold, that would be 5 billion per person. Are you telling me to pay a total of 15 billion yen? Preposterous. Keep listening until the end. We know that much money can't appear out of nowhere. We're not asking you to make an impossible deal. Of course, regarding the portions of the gold, we plan to reward you sufficiently for your hard work. Until now in our calculations. Our third condition. The portions of the gold to be the one bearing the title of successor to the Ushimi main family will be 50%. The remainder will be split fairly between all the siblings. Of course, this includes you, Kraus. Of the 20 billion, 12.5 will go to you, Anarchy. 2.5 to Ava Nason, 2.5 to me, and 2.5 to Rosa. A distribution that makes me so grateful I could cry. So you're saying, for the sake of the gold that doesn't exist, I must pay you 7.5 billion. What's wrong? Nissan, your share's 5 times the size of ours. It's such a good condition, I'd be jumping for joy. Our fourth condition. The dividends will be paid out along with the distribution of the inheritance at the time of Dad's death. However, as a deposit, 10% of our portions will be paid to us promptly. The payment must be made before March of next year. What do you think, Krasny-chan? It's an ideal chance for you to restore the trust you need to run Father's assets, right? Of course, it might be impossible to get the whole 7.5 billion before Dad dies. But you can't say you couldn't manage a deposit of 750 mil, right? Paying 700 million in half a year might be slightly bothersome. But someone like you, who has many friends in the political and business sphere, should be able to manage it. Normally, I'd hope to receive the 7.5 billion right now all at once. But, out of concern for your position, if you'll just show your sincerity by delivering 10% for the time being, it's alright to let the remaining 90% carry over until the distribution of the inheritance. Right? Surely even you can offer a mere 10% to show your sincerity. So, the right to investigate the status of Father's assets is being sold to me for 750 million. Isn't that great? You all sure have grown. I never thought you would all become more capable of offering a deal to me. Nissan, if you accept these, the rest of us siblings will leave the investigation of father's assets to you. However, the results of the investigation will be subject to an appeal. It's only natural, right? We'd be sad if you adjusted our portions downwards by 7.5 billion. As a general rule, we wouldn't complain. As long as you do it neatly, it's fine. As long as you don't do anything significantly obvious, we don't plan to aggravate anything. We want the inheritance quickly as much as you do. We don't want it to get all drawn out and led astray. In the case of an appeal, who would do the second investigation? That can be you as well. This would probably be the first and last opportunity for us siblings to discuss this. I trust you not to let it come to that. Rosa, you really can talk sometimes. That Krause was not trusted whatsoever as the oldest sibling was by now so obvious it requires no explanation. The formerly tyrannical oldest brother would always abuse his privilege and infringe upon the other siblings' shares. In response to that, the other three now adults were for the first time striking back at him by working together. I'm sorry, but there are further conditions. Our fifth condition? This decision must take precedence over father's will. Later on, we don't want some will to appear and make the decision completely useless. I see you're very cautious. Let me ask, if the gold really were found, what would you do? As long as you settle the matter with the corresponding payment, whether the gold really appears or not makes no difference to us. You can think of our share as an advance payment. Gives you something to live for. You plan to turn the island into a resort, right? During construction, you might stumble on the gold by chance. Ava let out a high-pitched laugh. Krause watched without even flinching. Let me add a seventh condition before I accept. In the situation that any other sibling other than myself finds the gold, they will immediately turn it over to me. Oh, yes, of course, we'll guarantee it. Insignificant details. The others, who were forcing Krause to pay money for some non-existent gold, would of course not ensure Krause's portion, were they to actually find the gold. From the beginning, this deal had been nothing more than a threat directed at Krause. While the truth might be different, the probability that Krause was embezzling his father's assets was extremely high. When, at last, Kinzo faced death and it came time for the inheritance to be distributed, surely some unpleasant facts would come to light. That situation would likely be a fatal wound to Krause. They had lashed on to the weak point and were threatening their brother under the veil of compromise, trying to wring out a huge sum of money. However, they let one thing slip their minds. The three of them had forgotten that their oldest sibling, who they couldn't defeat unless banded together, was a very nimble thinker when it came to being crafty. Krause relaxedly let out a gloating laugh as he spoke to Ava, who could not hide her smile, so certain she was of a victory. This all sounds marvelous to me. I'd been feeling a deep pain in my heart at my estrangement from the rest of you. If by accepting these conditions I could make our sibling relationship friendly once again, I would be quite pleased. I would gladly take you up on the offer. Be happy, Rosa. We have a deal. Rosa's expression dimmed. When her brother started talking like this, the conversation would never change for the better. Ava was also sensitive enough to realize this. Therefore, even though Krause had obediently accepted the deal, she was unable to wipe away her feeling of insecurity. My, how obedient? That's not like you at all, Nissan. That's harsh. You think I have an ulterior motive? Of course I don't. I'm just like all of you. I'm just like all of you. It felt as though only that part was emphasized. The color of Rudolph's face was darkened. I have a plan, just like all of you. That's what it sounded like to him. That gave him a sense of urgency. Trying to bring this near-finished discussion to a conclusion, he rushed to wrap it up. Then we're good. So, Anarchy, would you mind signing here? It's a written contract containing the discussion we've been having. There's one for each person. Everyone will sign for the same contents. Rudolph took 4 written contracts out of his breast pocket that had the details of their deal written on them. Of course, we'll also add the 7th condition you proposed straight away. Don't worry. Anarchy, will you use a pen? Rudolph took a fountain pen out of his breast pocket and offered it to Krause. Krause made as if to accept it, but then, with a small laugh, drew back his hand without taking it, and spoke. Actually, in order to make sure this agreement is definitively effective, I would like to propose a single amendment. When Krause said that one sentence, all of the siblings felt at the same time as though something annoying was creeping up their backs. That won't do. We've already decided, haven't we? Be quiet and sign it. Ava, why are you so impatient? Of course I will sign. I'll promise you all your share of the gold. 7.5 billion yen. I also promise that when father's inheritance is distributed, I will cleanly and neatly liquidate it. However, there's just one point on which I must ask you to compromise. What are you talking about? What point don't you like? The part about promptly paying 10% of each portion. 750 million yen. As you pointed out, my financial situation is not prosperous. While I am guaranteed to definitely collect on various future investments, at the time I have no choice but to admit I am very poor. In short, I have absolutely no money that I can move around right now. I am incompetent, and my business skills and senses are dull. An unfortunate such as me, to use your words, has no power to move 750 million in just half a year. That can't be true. Are you trying to deceive us with offhand remarks? At the time of the division of the inheritance, I will liquidate everything at once. Remove the condition that I must pay you 10% in advance. That is all you have to do to get me to sign. Krasny, that 10%'s nothing more than a number to measure your sincerity, right? Strictly speaking, we shouldn't even be able to make a deal in the first place. We're doing you a big favor by offering to let things slide for just 10% of good faith money. We explained all that to you, so don't you think rejecting that part damages our trust and relationship a little? Hideyoshi had a humble expression on his face and his hands clasped together, but his eyes were not calm at all. Krause had already seen through the shadow in the depths of those eyes. Why are you all so hurried? Or are you possibly afraid of something? Rosa, won't you tell me at least? Secretly, without telling the rest of the siblings. It's not like I... Quit it, Anarchy. All we're asking is whether you're going to sign or not. Just forget about making any strange deals or anything suspicious. Oh, so I have no margin for negotiation? Do you claim my position is so weak that we are not in an even relationship? Shivers began to crawl up Rudolph's back. Ever since he was a child, he'd never been able to overcome the height of the wall that separated him from his older brother. And now again he began to feel himself getting sucked in by it, and by the long shadow that it cast. Shouldn't deals be made on even footing? To me, this deal is something to restore the long-lost trust of my younger brothers and sisters, and deepen the love between us siblings. It has been a cancer in my heart that I wish to resolve quickly. I'm very happy I was able to resolve it today. But you, too, would be very happy to see this deal quickly concluded, wouldn't you? Krause stared at each of the siblings. They avoided his gaze with animal-like instinct. Only Hideyoshi was slow avoiding it, so he was caught in Krause's gaze. Hideyoshi, Nisan, I hear your company has been going extremely well recently, hasn't it? You didn't hit any problems getting listed as a stock, and both its performance and stock prices are constantly growing. I'm truly jealous. My husband's situation surely has nothing to do with this. However, it is unfortunate you have neglected your stockholders. It's also horrible you were unable to solidify your base when you became stock-listed. Before you realized it, some bad-natured fellows had bought up a considerable amount of your company's stock, hadn't they? How do you know something like that? The same way as you. If you can collect evidence proving that no one would offer a loan to me, then I can collect evidence on you. Is it really that strange a thing? Krause grinned broadly. In contrast, Hideyoshi's face was turning obviously pale. Hideyoshi's company was a fast food chain operating company that he'd started from nothing. Through Hideyoshi's management effort, performance of the business repeatedly rose and magnified, and ultimately it succeeded in becoming a stock-listed company. The greatest advantage of being the stockholding system is by selling stock certificates, a large amount of financing can be gained. That amount is far greater than the actual profits from the business, which made it an extremely effective way to gather the massive funds needed to grow his company even further. However, in exchange for financing the company, the stockholders have certain rights. Namely, the right to observe and guide the company that they finance in order to raise its profits above their investment. That right is guaranteed to all stockholders, and they sometimes even use it to reorganize and effectual management. It is the right to prevent that money they spent financing the company from going to waste by watching the management of the company. However, if they use this right forcibly, they can eject the former management and take over the company. Because the general body of all stockholders has the power to dismiss the management and nominate new management. That right is exercised on a majority decision by the stockholders. And, oops. Let's see here. And people who hold more stock get to cast more votes. In other words, if some person or group holds a majority of the stock, they can freely chase out the old management and make the president anyone they would like. If they want, it's even possible for them to make themselves president. Many companies, in order to prevent their stock from being bought up by malicious people and their position from being threatened, take some kind of defensive measures, such as having their own employees or people close to them buy a lot of stock certificates, in order to prevent a hostile group from securing the majority. However, since Hideyoshi's company had only recently become stock listed, they hadn't had the time to strengthen those defensive measures. No, maybe Hideyoshi himself was so engrossed in the management of his company that he hadn't realized the dangers of being stock listed. It's hard to say whether he should be viewed as a kind-hearted and skilled manager immersed in management, or a foolish one who had his feet swept out from under him. But in any case, there were people out there who would not let him get away with that naivete unscathed. They rapidly bought up Hideyoshi's company's stocks and instantly gained a significant amount of power. They then sent anonymous documents to the stockholders and began to capture the majority. The documents read, "The current management continues to make pointless investments and is ignoring the needs of the stockholders. Let us force the current management to retire, cut the current wasted investments, and let this company be born again as one that gives more back to the stockholders." It is very difficult to make the actual state of a company's management known. They maliciously twisted the figures Hideyoshi produced from a tiny amount of sleep and a constant concern for his company, and made him lose the trust of his stockholders. Their effort had almost collected a majority of the stock in the company. At that point, even Hideyoshi noticed and started to buy back the stock, but the stockholders, who realized the company was undergoing an acquisition maneuver, demanded a ridiculous price for the shares that Hideyoshi was trying to buy back. They continually tortured Hideyoshi, who had no leeway in the negotiation of the price. One of the certainties of capitalism is the value will rise when both parties vie for the same thing. And one of the certainties of democracy is that the majority controls everything. So in the end, whoever manages to buy up the most stock wins. So whoever has the most money wins. If Hideyoshi could obtain a large sum of money At this critical time, he would be able to avoid losing all of that which he had built up. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now. He couldn't wait for the division of Kinzo's inheritance, which may not happen for some time. And you, Rudolph, you've been in a lot of trouble lately, haven't you? They say it's scary overseas, but it seems that's really true. American trials are settled quite emotionally. They won't give a generous judgment to a foreigner. Weren't you advised by your lawyer that making a settlement with the other party would be more economical in the end? What's he talking about? Oh, just troubles at work. No big deal. It'll be settled with money. Kyrie quickly recognized what Rudolph's complicated expression meant. Her husband had gotten wrapped up in some kind of trouble without her knowledge, and been suffering alone. That's right. In this world, anything can be settled with money. After all, it can even buy back the broken bonds between siblings. America is very fussy about the violation of rights. But with money, anything can be settled. Long live capitalism. Although rumors abound that the settlement money may reach several $1 million. Rudolph had been building a large amount of wealth with a certain type of niche market. However, a niche is still a niche. It's definitely not a sunny job. An American corporate giant was trying to accuse Rudolph's company of violating their rights. For various reasons, it was thought that winning the trial was extremely unlikely, and Rudolph was being pressured to surrender outright. But even so, there was a way to resolve it with money. If he could only pay that money, though, it might be painful. He could still pick himself back up. But if he didn't pay, he'd lose everything. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now. Rosa, you are good and noble as a little sister. You wouldn't ever touch a dangerous money game. However, your soft-hearted nature was your ruin, wasn't it? I wouldn't think one should agree to become a co-signer so lightly. That has nothing to do with you, Kraus Nissan! Rosa uncharacteristically lay bare her emotions and yelled, because she had thought that she had kept it a secret. As Kraus watched, he let slip a muffled laugh. There was nothing to fear. Every one of them, more than anything else, wanted a lot of money right now. In other words, the situation had been reversed, because only Kraus, who they were threatening, had no urgent need for a large sum of money. Compared to that, the three who were threatening him wanted money quickly, no matter the cost. So the longer Kraus postponed the deal, the greater the advantage to him. Kraus was very sly. He had known of their Achilles' heel from the beginning. Even so, he had not been certain. Therefore, he had hidden that until the very end, and upon closely and completely examining their attitude, he had struck back. If I could, I would love to raise some money for my darling brothers and sisters in their time of need. But unfortunately, I have nothing on hand. If you have any sponsors in mind that can raise a whole $750 million, I suggest you try there first. Kraus's elated words were horribly blunt. The other siblings could do nothing more than listen, grinding their teeth. If they could think of a sponsor that convenient, they wouldn't have kept up this charade. They had ensured this huge battle specifically because they had exhausted all the other options. If you're still set on relying on your older brother, I could use my influence to find you sponsors. Oh wait, you already said I have no influence. Well then I can't do anything, can I? Kraus's low, gloating laugh began to fill the parlor. The younger siblings, who had until now been driving the oldest brother into a corner, could do nothing more than grimace and grind their teeth. Ava! Don't make me laugh. As if I would ever put myself in your debt. Don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh. If we relied on you, how would you help us? I told you, didn't I? All I can do is find other sponsors for you. Of course, I will do my utmost to negotiate so you can borrow the interest as well. Damn you, taking advantage of us. Baby, calm down. I'm calm. I'm extremely cool. You bastard. Kyrie grabbed her husband's hand, but that action made him feel even more pitiful, so Rudolph shook it off. Kraus laughed as though seeing that made him extremely happy. If only we truly could find Father's hidden gold at a time like this, then I could split it into 2.5 billion yen portions for you right away. How sad, how very sad. How extremely, totally, truly, hopelessly sad. Tonight, let us drink together as brothers and sisters and discuss the whereabouts of Father's hidden gold. Solve the riddle of Beatrice's epitaph together, why don't we? With 4 friendly siblings all together, there's surely no puzzle that can't be solved. How interesting. And what are the conditions that are attached? Certainly. Whether or not Kraus-sama actually discovers the gold, he would pay Ava, Rudolph, and Rosa a total of 7.5 billion yen for their shares. However, 10% of that would be paid before March. Kraus, you dunce. That he would have his feet swept out from under him by his younger siblings. Truly amusing. But it seems they couldn't seal the deal. Yes. Kraus-sama exposed that Ava and the younger siblings all had urgent needs to get money. So if he's given something that simple, he can see through it then. He can't even manage incompetence. What are they doing now? That conversation that has been put on hold for the time being. Now Beatrice's epitaph is being discussed. So they are trying to solve the riddle and find out where my gold is hidden. Yes. Kinzo set down his glasses and snorted. Will the miracle be fulfilled first? Or will the fools expose the gold first? What a sight to behold. If those fools solve my puzzle, at that time I will be completely defeated. They can suck my corpse down to the last fragment of bone. The magnitude of the fool's greed imbues my great magic with its miraculous potential. But if the fulfillment of the miracle comes first, if it comes first, Beatrice will be resurrected again. That smile which I have been chasing half my life will be restored. Oh, Beatrice! That sacred night when the miracle is wagered will come and the devil's game will begin. I will win, and will definitely remain alive. You can have the lives of the others. I don't need wealth or honor or assets or gold or anything. I only want to see you smile one more time. Kinzo choked, apparently in great pain. Cannon got closer and tried to pat his master's back, but Kinzo signaled that he didn't need to. Do you know why I went to the trouble of exposing the hidden location of the gold, so everyone could see it? No. It is because magical power is determined by risk. The greater the number of people who try to discover Beatrice's gold, the greater the danger of that happening. Then, assuming the better successful despite those long odds, the magical power will bring about an even grander miracle. In other words, magic is a game. It is not true that that the most superior person will become the winner. The winner becomes superior because he is granted magic. Do you understand? Just as the miracle of life is granted precisely because of a victory against divine odds of several 100 million to 1. Is this a little difficult for you to comprehend? My apologies. That's fine. It all comes down to this. To the one that solves the mystery of Beatrice's epitaph, I will give all of that which I have built up. Wealth, honor, gold, succession to the Utremia family headship. Everything I have established. The right to tackle the riddle is not limited to my children. Even if it were you who succeeded in solving it, that would make you qualified to gain everything. Yes. However, I could never possibly understand such a difficult riddle. Of course, I made it difficult. but you must also challenge it. That will become the seed with which the miracle of my magic is summoned. If everyone challenges it and everyone fails, that will be that. However, if the miracles are all gathered and the magical power is born, it will happen then. Beatrice will revive. Therefore, you too must challenge it. All must challenge it. And in doing so, they must give strength to my magic. Do you understand? Yes, I will try. For a long while, Kinzo repeatedly muttered to himself, agitated and grabbing onto his head. Canon stayed where he was, alert and unmoving, until he was given the next order from his master. Kinzo finally realized this. That is all. Leave me. There is a bag of sweets on the liquor cabinet. You may take some with you as a reward. I'm fine. After all, I'm furniture. Huh. So furniture does not eat sweets. Indeed. In that case, leave me. As you asked. Please excuse me. Canon bowed and left the study. As the door was closed, a heavy locking noise resounded. But that was not the sound of Canon locking the door. It was the door locking automatically. No one could enter without Kinzo's permission, and once they left, they could not enter again. It was a mechanism that Kinzo, unable to trust his blood relatives, had created to lock himself up in his own study and isolate himself from the outside world. The only ones he could trust now were not the sons who shared his blood, but the servants who called themselves furniture. Dr. Nonjo, is something the matter?
Oh, Kenji. It's just I had no place in there anymore.
With a bitter laugh, Nonjo turned to face the door of the parlor. It seemed that because of that motion, Genji understood what Nonjo wanted to say. For the most part, Genji also understood the family situation. It must have made him want to frown, knowing that right now in the parlor, the master he served was being discussed so disrespectfully. But it would have been very difficult to gather that from his indifferent expression.
Still, it isn't that clear to me. Why did Kinzo have something so provocative written, I wonder?
Nonjo looked at the portrait of Beatrice. No, he actually directed his gaze beneath the portrait at the plate of the epitaph.
I fail to understand the master's thoughts. I sense they run very deep. For as long as I can remember, whenever Kinzo played chess, he would always make moves based on some far-sighted reading of the board. Sometimes even moves that were incomprehensible. For an average person like me, it's impossible to see through to whatever he's planning. I personally suspect this may be some kind of will from the master. He most likely intends to entrust his assets and the family headship to whoever manages to comprehend it. Hoping the danger of some outsider like myself solving it would force the four siblings to work together to solve it. Could be something like that then. Kinzo may rudely disparage his children, but he may also be hoping the siblings repair their relationship.
If, as Nonjo said, this epitaph had been written to repair the relationship between the siblings, how heartwarming that would be. However, Nonjo and Genji both knew this was the one thing that could never be the case. Here were the two who held the longest relationships with Kinzo, more trusted than his blood relatives, and even they could not guess at Kinzo's true motive.
The master is always saying the right to challenge the riddle is granted to everyone, whether they are a member of the family or not. How about you, Dr. Nonjo? No. It's too hard to understand for this senile old man. I actually wrote it down in my notebook at one point in time. Night after night, I would try and solve it before going to sleep, but, well, it truly is hard. I believe it shall continue providing me enjoyment for the rest of my days. What about you, Genji? I'm nothing more than furniture that serves the master. Golden assets are useless to me. My, how humble. That's probably why Kinzo trusts you so. If so, I am honored.
As Nanjo lightly laughed in response, he once again looked at the epitaph.
Behold, this Sweetfish River, running through my beloved home of old. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key.
That which is written on the epitaph of the portrait of my beloved witch Beatrice is as follows. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved home of old. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two speak of. There the key to the Golden Land sleeps. You who laid hand upon key must journey as follows to the Golden Land. On the first twilight, sacrifice the 6 chosen by the key. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the 2 who are close. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. On the 5th twilight, gouge the chest and kill. On the 6th twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the 7th twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the 8th twilight, gouge the leg and kill. On the 9th twilight, the witch revives, and none shall be left alive. On the 10th twilight, the journey ends, and you shall reach the home of the gold. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all of the Golden Land's gold. One resurrects all the dead people's souls. One even revives all the love they possessed. And one for the witch to eternally rest. Rest in peace, my beloved witch Beatrice. Alright, some more family drama. We got to hear about the legend of the gold and the epitaph. So, we'll go ahead and save, and next time we will read Sandy Beach, I believe is the name of the chapter. Yep. Alright. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all next time.